So, I am heading to Baku, Azerbaijan, and in my mind, I am heading to an erstwhile Soviet nation with remnants of old Soviet Russia, grey, imposing, and brutalist architecture and culture. But I land and get a minor shock. The Baku I see is not grey. In fact, it is a splash of color, contemporary, and well, looks very capitalist. I am confronted with a swank city, futuristic, beautiful architecture, and a great infrastructure, and a general sense of positivism. A little sniffing around, and I figure that what I see out of my hotel window is a city predominantly reconstructed post that Christmas day of 1991, when Mikhail Gorbachev lowered the flag of USSR one last time. Outside my window is a stunning new city full of stunning structures by architects like Zaha Hadid. Each of those structures are worth several videos. But there are three other Bakus around me, and let me tell you about all. The first and the oldest Baku is about 50 kilometers outside the city center, called the Gobustan Rock Art Cultural Landscape. This is a UNESCO heritage site spread across 500 plus hectares with a brilliant collection of over 6,000 rock engravings that represents over 40,000 years of rock art. The art represents activities connected with the daily life of the inhabitants of those caves in a time when the climate and vegetation of the area were warmer and wetter. These folks were the original inhabitants of Baku. On the route between the newest Baku and the oldest Baku is a third Baku, remnants of the old Soviet regime. You see the brutalism in the architecture and the most of the buildings that are going to seed. My car, a Soviet era Lada that are hired for reasons of romanticism, well, predictably breaks down. I step out and wait for my car to get fixed, and somewhere in the smell of the grease and the leaking fuel, I can sniff an ideology that I don't think can be repaired. Anyways, back in the city, I visit another Baku, a medieval era one, called the Ichri Sheher or the inner city. This was the traditional capital of Azerbaijan. Most claim it dates back to the 12th century, but then there are contesting claims that takes it way back to the 7th century. I read somewhere that in 1806, when the Russians occupied Baku, the city had 700 shops, 500 households, and a population of 7,000. Among the many impressive structures in the Ichri Sheher, the inner city, is the Maiden Tower. Everything about it is mysterious and enshrouded. Some believe that the original structure was built in 5th century and then rebuilt in the 12th century. Some believe it was an observatory, others believe it was a Zoroastrian fire temple, or as we would call it in India, a Parsi Agyari. I promise to share more about this fascinating connection in another video. However, I am curious to tell you about the name, because the name and the way the tower stands reminds me of the fairy tale Rapunzel. So here is the story of the Maiden Tower, and called Giz Galassi by the locals. Many longs back, Baku was besieged by the enemy. Water lines were cut and the inhabitants were close to giving up. However, the Zoroastrian priest prayed to Ahura Mazda till one day a pillar of fire falls upon the tower. That pillar transforms into a beautiful female warrior with flaming hair. She takes a helmet from one of them, hides her hair, and goes out to fight the enemy. Outside, the enemy commander is waiting to fight the city's greatest warrior on a one-on-one battle. She rides out and beats the shit out of him. Defeated, the enemy requests this great warrior to show his face. She takes off her helmet, and guess what? The enemy is defeated once again. The opponent offers her his heart, and she happily takes it away, and then they live happily ever after. And that is how Maiden Tower gets its name. Well, there are other legends, but I'll keep this one. And I'm very convinced that this is the source of the story of Rapunzel, with images of warrior with flaming hair lighting up my imagination. I return to the new Baku in my old Lada, and it strikes me that I have seen four Bakus: the prehistoric, the medieval, the Soviet, and the new Baku. I would say it has been a great day.